here. Who's this by again? Non-stop hip hop? No, non-stop. Non-stop sport. Who's the most unguardable NBA player? Yeah.
When we talk about basketball history and try to compare the greatest scores from different eras, it's often a difficult task due to many rule changes, differences in competition, and overall basketball evolution. In this video, we'll dissect the games of 5 of the best scorers that ever played in the NBA, explain why they were so effective, and then finally, we'll try to answer the difficult question: who's the most unguardable player ever? Michael Jordan, the ultimate scoring machine. Michael Jeffrey Jordan came to the league in 1984 and immediately got himself noticed. He was faster than everybody, supremely confident, and could stay in the air longer than anybody we have ever seen on the basketball court. Through 13 seasons with the Bulls, Jordan has averaged 31.5 points per game. Even if we add 2 seasons in the Wizards that he played with almost 40 years on his shoulders, Jordan's career PPG is 30.1, which is still the best scoring average ever. Sure, you can make the counter-argument that he had the ultimate green light, and that he would take more shots in one game than his teammates would take in 3 or 4 games. And that would be correct, as Jordan averaged 23 shot attempts per game in his career, which is half an attempt more than Wilt. Still, it would be an argument if Jordan wasn't effective, which was not the case. MJ shot over 50% from the field in the Bulls uniform, and because he drew a lot of fouls, his high free throw percentage made him even more efficient. Only 7% of his attempts were three-pointers, and despite taking a lot of tough mid-range shots, Jordan has maintained incredible efficiency even on a large volume. What is often highlighted as an important argument in favor of Jordan's scoring greatness is his performance in big games. As the pressure and the quality of the opponent grew, so did his numbers. Jordan's career is full of insane playoff stats, like those from the 1993 Finals against Phoenix, where he averaged 41 points, 8.5 assists, and 6.3 rebounds. Through the 179 playoff games he played in his career, MJ scored 33.45 points per playoff game, 0.5 assists, and 6.3 rebounds. Through the 179 playoff games he played in his career, MJ scored 179 playoff games, 3 points more than his career average. And of course, this is also an all-time best.
Sorry, what?
He played in his career, MJ scored 33.45 points per game, 3 points more than his career average. And of course, this is also an all-time.
He averaged more points in the playoffs than he did in normal career.
Best. He was probably the best clutch performer in NBA history, as evidenced by the extremely rich collection of crucial plays in big games, of which, of course, the most famous is the shot over Byron Russell, which secured the Bulls another three-peat. MJ's ability to get past an opponent one-on-one, split a double team, attack the hoop, and carry a team when no one else could score was second to none. Even though he lacked the three-point shot for the majority of his career, his incredible post skills, dribbling prowess, and efficient shooting from the mid-range made him one of the most versatile and deadliest scorers ever. Kobe Bryant, Jordan 2.0.
Don't give me like that,
Kobe
nigga.
Bean Bryant
Cutie.
was the true incarnation of Jordan, both visually, mentally, and spiritually. He wanted to kill on the court, and for the majority of his legendary career, he did just that. Even though he wasn't as strong as MJ, nor he had the big hands that could palm the ball with ease, he could make every move Jordan could, probably even with more elegance and refinement. We'll forever remember 81 points against the Raptors, 62 against the Mavs in 3 quarters, and 60 points against Utah in his farewell game, which stand out among the numerous 40 and 50-point performances Mamba had in his illustrious career. Kobe's prime came into the worst era when it comes to pace, which extended from the second Jordan three-peat to the time Bryant won his 5th title in 2010. Averaging many points with the slowest pace in league history is definitely an argument for Kobe, even though the same can't be said for efficiency. He did shoot and make twice as many threes as MJ did, but the accuracy was the same. Kobe also shot less than 45% from the field in his career, and there were times where he was heavily criticized for shooting too much and not passing the ball. His true shooting percentage is 55%, compared to Jordan's 57%, and his 36 per 100 possessions are worse than Jordan's 40. So, even though he was probably even more skilled than Jordan, we have to give the advantage to Mike, who won 10 scoring titles compared to Kobe's 2, and he also edges Bryant in both traditional and advanced stats. Kevin Durant, a 7-foot shooting guard. Just when Kobe was winning his last championship, Another scoring
7-foot
phenom was
shooting
emerging.
guard, bro.
From 2010 to 2014, he won 4 scoring titles and firmly established himself as the most unguardable scorer in the NBA. Kevin Durant coined the term unicorn, which is interesting because he's a unicorn himself. The world has never seen someone that tall to handle and shoot the ball like KD can. And even though he won all those scoring titles in OKC, the full extent of his scoring wrath wasn't fully unleashed.
I've never heard anyone call
Oklahoma
him
had
unicorn
talent,
before.
but it didn't have shooters around Durant, who was often forced to play ISO basketball, especially in the playoffs. With the Warriors, it was a whole other story. Like a tailor-made suit, Durant was made for the Warriors, and the Warriors were made for him. Durant finally showed how wide is the range of his offensive arsenal. He scored in half-court, in transition, as a cutter, from catch and shoots, isolations, you name it. It almost hurts how simple his game is. Durantula just takes what the defense offers. If you step back, he'll shoot over you. If you press him, Kevin will get past you. Michael used his 48-inch vertical to create separation, paired with great footwork. He'd bait the defender with a simple dribble move or a fake, and then shoot over him due to his superior jumping ability. Kobe didn't have the same athleticism, but he had the most skill, and he'd use every trick in the book and had endless counter moves if the defender pushed him in a tight spot. With Durant, it's much simpler. He's 6'11" and has a 7'5" wingspan. With such length, KD doesn't need some fancy dribble to get an open look, because all the looks are pretty much open for him. Durant's true shooting percentage is 62%, which is 5% better than Jordan's career numbers. Of course, KD benefited from the heavy usage of the three-pointer, which paved the way for great shooters like him to boost their efficiency. His 27 points per game is the 6th best scoring average ever, and in the playoffs, he's 4th all-time with 29 points per game. And because he's more efficient than Jordan, and because his points come so effortlessly, unlike Wilt and Kobe, I would put KD's scoring ability in the rarefied air of MJ, if not above him. James Harden, the mad scientist. In 2015, when the Curry-led Warriors won their first title, only one team shot more than 33s per game.
Honestly, if
in
I have
2020,
to
there were
guard an
only
NBA
3
player, I'm
teams that
fouling the
hoisted
fuck out
less
of that
than
nigga.
30 shots from deep. In fact, the number of three-pointers attempted grew each year since 2012, when the average number of three-point attempts was 18.4.
They gotta keep up with the Warriors,
which is almost double. The average pace has also gone up, and the average NBA team in 2020 has 10 more possessions and 7 shot attempts more when compared to 2012. The offensive success of the Warriors has set off an avalanche that is now impossible to stop. Even though they started the revolution, the Warriors are not the central figure of the three-point renaissance. It's the Houston Rockets, with the game centered about one Renaissance man, the NBA's mad scientist, Mr. James Harden. Helped and encouraged by analytics and always innovative Mike D'Antoni, James Harden became an anomaly, whose style of play is something we have never seen. Could he really be the most unguardable player ever? Although Harden is a player who plays iso ball with a huge number of shot attempts, his game can't be characterized as selfish because he plays within Houston's offensive scheme. The number of assists confirms this. Since he got to Houston, Harden is the 4th in the league in the number of assists per game. If he senses a defense collapsing, Harden will quickly pass the ball to the roll man or to a shooter for a 3. Watching Houston play can be exhausting at times. To watch Harden dribble the ball for 15 seconds and then make a move. However, that also is by design. There are very few players who force defenses to make so many adjustments and are a real triple threat, through which the entire basketball system of one team can revolve. Houston plays like this only because James Harden is a magician with the basketball. His elite ball handling, great decision-making, mastering the art of drawing fouls, and a dangerous outside shot. His offensive arsenal is unlimited, and he's arguably the most skilled offensive player ever, together with Kobe. The beard became almost impossible to guard. To take away his step back and channel him to the paint, defenders started defending him from behind, which is as absurd as it is a compliment to Harden's skill. Harden will never be a fan favorite. He flopped too much in the past to channel him to the paint. Defenders started defending him from behind, which is as absurd as it is a
What do you ask? What the fuck?
to the paint. Defenders started defending him from behind, which is as absurd as it is a compliment to Harden's skill. Harden will never be a fan favorite. He flopped too much in the past. He dribbles too much and draws too many fouls, which kills the flow of the game. You may not like him, but you have to respect James, because his moves are basketball poetry. In the 2018-19 season, he went ballistic and scored over 30 in 32 consecutive games. 50 or 60-point triple-doubles were not a surprising stat line anymore, nor was him shooting 23s per game by himself. The Beard won the scoring title in the last 3 seasons, and since he got to Houston,
Is Wilt Chamberlain not on his fucking
he
thing?
averages slightly under 30 points per game, which of course leads the NBA. And he's doing it effectively too. Because he graduated from the University of Daryl Morey, Harden takes a lot of three-pointers, or he tries to score layups or free throws. His true shooting percentage is 61%, which is better than Jordan, Kobe, or Chamberlain. James is scoring 39 points per 100 possessions as a Rocket, which is a point less than Jordan, but he averages 9 assists per 100 compared to Jordan's 7.
Oh, what the
Harden
fuck
is
did I just do to
generating
my
more
wrist?
points than MJ. Could he really be the most potent offensive player who ever played and the most unguardable player ever? Well, the advanced statistics would say yes, but basketball is not just a bunch of numbers. Unlike Kobe, whose numbers stayed relatively the same in the playoffs, or MJ and Durant, whose numbers improved, you can't say the same about Harden. Both his totals and his efficiency drops in the playoffs, and we all know that's when it counts most. And unlike other players on this list, Harden hasn't won a ring. He didn't even make the finals as the main player in Houston. I'm a big fan of James Harden, and I appreciate the innovation he brought to the game of basketball, and I applaud the fact he plays great defense now. He is definitely a great player, and one of the best offensive players ever. But until he can replicate the numbers from the regular season and win a ring, he'll always be behind the other players on this list, and some others as well. And to answer the question from the title, the most unguardable players ever are Kevin Durant and Michael Jordan. Both the eye test and the advanced stats would say so. Let us know in the comments if you agree.
I do not agree. That's gonna wrap it up.